You just inherited a home in California, and maybe you've heard a little bit about Prop 19 before, but maybe you're just hearing about it now. Prop 19, some people think it's a loophole, some people think it's a landmine. It could save you thousands or cost you even more than you imagined. So what is Prop 19? Prop 19 came into effect a few years ago, and it essentially allows the property tax basis to be passed down from parent to child or grandparent to grandchild. What most people don't realize, though, is that you have to apply for this, and the home could be reassessed if the title changes. So what does that mean for you? Well, this means before Prop 19 came into effect, through Prop 58 and 163, anyone who inherited a home, parent to child and parent to grandchild, if you could prove relationship, it was a given which helped people save tons and tons of money. But now that Prop 19 is in effect, that benefit is gone unless you move into the property within 1 year. So that means that you got to make it your primary residence within a year of inheriting the home, and you have to let the assessor know what you're doing. So what happens if you decide to rent the property? Or what happens if you just say, forget it, I'm not going to tell anyone anything. This is my business. This is my home that I inherited. So mind your own business, Mr. Assessor, dude. Well, guess what? The home could get reassessed. And that becomes problematic because thanks to Prop 13, whoever you inherited the home from, if they've owned it for a long time, maybe it was 10, 20, 30 years, the property tax basis is much lower than if that home was purchased today. So what am I trying to say? Property taxes are rated ad valorem, which means at value. So when the home was purchased, the county assessor said, hey, this is the value of the home because that's when it was purchased. So if your parents, your grandparents purchased a home for $30, $80, $100, $150,000, that property tax basis is a lot lower because let's be real, there are no homes in San Diego County worth that little right now. And thanks to Prop 13, those homes' property taxes were capped at how much they could increase per year, which meant that those property taxes that are paid on that home could be quite low. Now, if that home is reassessed, which means that the county assessor is going to look at the comps, they're going to see what the homes in the area are worth, and they're going to figure out what they think fair market value would be for the home when title changes or when there's some major construction that happens. So if you inherit the home and you don't use Prop 19, or if you inherit the home and you decide to rent it out, this is where it becomes important for you to know. Many people that I've talked to think that they just inherit the property tax base, they want to rent it out, and they don't factor in for the new property taxes. And even if the home is owned outright, that bill can make a huge difference. Sometimes we're talking about a home that was purchased for $150,000, it's now worth $2 million. Now, that property tax basis on a home only worth $150,000 is a lot lower than the property taxes on a home that's worth $2 million. We're talking about a difference of about $1,500 a year to $20,000 a year. And you think that maybe you could rent it out for fair market value, or maybe you're going to do someone a favor and rent it out for less so that you have good tenants and someone appreciates what you're doing for them. Or it could cause a roadblock to your financial goals that you're trying to accomplish by renting the home out. So a real world example is one of my clients, they inherited a home. They already owned their own home and they thought, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rent out this home so that I can pay for my kids' college tuition. Great idea, right? He thought that he was going to be netting about $2,800 a month. He didn't want to manage the home himself. He understood that there were going to be property taxes, insurance, HOA dues, and things like that he factored into his equation to figure out how much money he could expect to make each month from the home. What he didn't factor in was Prop 19. And realized that by renting out the home, his property tax basis was actually a lot higher than he had factored at, which meant that he didn't have as much money. He was only working with about $1,200 a month after that property tax reassessment. Yep, that's a huge deal. It cut what he thought he was going to make in half. So what can you do? Well, you have a few options. Number one, you can move into the home, make it your primary residence. And this may make sense for some people because maybe you move into the home that you inherited, and if you already own a home like the client that I mentioned, maybe you rent out that home that you already own. And I get what you're saying. Maybe the home that you inherited, you don't want to move into. Well, that's something to keep in mind too. Maybe it's in an area that's inconvenient to your work, or maybe you just flat out don't like the house. But it is important to understand how this affects your bottom line so that you can understand how it either helps, and either understand how it helps support the goals that you're trying to accomplish, or gets in the way and pushes you back from it. That brings me to option number 2. Option number 2 is that you sell the house. Now, if you sell the house, you can say something like, hey, my goal is to create this much income per month from having an investment property. And from there, you start looking in areas that can do that for you. Maybe you buy a new home close by, maybe you look a little bit further out, or maybe you even invest in a different state. Depending on how much you have to invest, you could do a world of different ideas to help you balance out and create a balanced and spread out strategy to keep you safe no matter what happens in the economy, with stocks, with real estate, whatever, you're more protected. So when you're looking at that and you're specifically thinking about selling the home to create some financial independence or passive income, it's important to have good people on your team that could help you evaluate the property, understand what you're looking for in the property, and how that property will actually perform. Additionally, where should you look for these properties? That's one of the things that I help people with. And then also, I have some great financial advisors that I connect people with so that they can get an idea of what to do. Maybe there's more money that they want to invest in. They don't want to put it all into a new investment home. Or maybe they just want to see what their options are and get multiple perspectives on it so that they're sure that they're doing the right thing for them. Number 3, you could just rent that home out, but understand how Prop 19 and the new property tax basis will affect the rental, and how that will affect your long-term financial goals. Although it may have an effect, you may decide that that effect is minimal in your eyes and still get you to your goals. So in that instance, by all means, rent the place out if that's what makes sense to you. And the last thing that I always encourage people to do is to think about the capital gains taxes on the property. If you're inheriting a home, you get what's known as a step-up in basis. Understanding step-up in basis, you need to understand carryover basis. We've covered this before in many other videos. The basic thing is that carryover basis is the difference from original purchase price to sales price. So that difference is your capital gains exposure minus your 121 exemption, capital improvements, or other things like that. If it's an investment property, you have an option to do a 1031 exchange that basically says, hey, IRS, I'm keeping this as an investment property. And they say, all right, great. As long as you follow these guidelines, we'll let you buy another property without charging you capital gains taxes right now. But when you inherit a property, you get the step up in basis, which means that even if mom or dad or grandma or grandpa purchased the home for $30, $50, $100, $150,000, and it's now worth $2 million, you inherited it $2 million, and your capital gains exposure is right there at that $2 million. So if you sell it then, you likely wouldn't have to pay any capital gains. If you decide to rent it out for any period of time, although you still get that step up in basis, if you decide to rent it out for a few years and then it's not working out, you don't want to rent this home anymore, you may want to be prepared to know what you're going to do about the capital gains taxes at that time. And at that point, if the home is a rental, then doing a 1031 exchange may be an option. But if you're deciding to sell it soon after you inherit it, it's likely unnecessary. Every option has its pros and cons. And that's why it's important to understand what actually works for you, what helps you get to where you're trying to go financially. And let's be honest, this isn't just numbers on a spreadsheet. It's not a cut and dry decision for some people. Many people need to process this. It's not just a home, it's a symbol of their childhood, past memories, and it's their parents' legacy. They want to honor it in a way that expands it and that is a gift that makes people proud. The challenge is that you're trying to make a financial decision while you're managing all the emotions, the grief, and figuring out what the right option is. The good news is you don't have to do this alone. I've created a great Prop 19 guide that is free for people like you. All you have to do is shoot me an email at sellitscott@kw.com and ask for the Prop 19 guide. I'll be happy to send it over to you. It's in PDF form, super easy to understand, super easy to read, and know how it applies to your situation. And to add on top of that, if you need help figuring out how a property looks as an investment, I also have a free calculator that I can help you walk through so that you make sure you're covering everything and have a full picture of what it will look like no matter what decision you make.